Picking up the events from the previous episode, the beginning after the end episode 5 commences with the elven soldiers asking Arthur who permitted him to trespass into their land. They persecute him further because he's a human, whom the elf race sees as barbarians. Interestingly, Arthur notices Tessia's scornful eyes peering at him. He wonders whether their friendship meant nothing. At this moment, Tessia Erilith requests the soldiers to let Arthur go. She assures them that Arthur isn't dangerous just because he's a human. Rather, Tessia tells them how the boy saved her life. However, the soldiers don't buy her words, thinking the human boy must have brainwashed her. Just then, an elderly elf arrives at the scene and orders the soldiers to let Arthur go. He states that it's only natural for the soldiers to react the way they did after seeing a human standing beside the missing princess. The elf then introduces himself as the former king of Elenoir, Virion Erilith, Tessia's grandfather. He expresses his gratitude to Arthur for saving the princess's life. Meanwhile, Arthur is flabbergasted to discover that Tessia is royalty. Virion asks Tessia whether she hasn't told Arthur about her lineage. The elven girl acts slightly goofy, as she can't recollect why she didn't tell Arthur her actual identity. Just as the situation gets less threatening for Arthur, Tessia's parents arrive at the scene. Tessia's father, the current king of Elenoir, immediately asks the soldiers to apprehend Arthur just because he's a human. However, Virion tells him that they shouldn't kill the boy since he saved Tessia's life. On the other hand, Tessia throws tantrums when her parents act coldly toward Arthur. She wants to invite the boy to the castle. Tessia's constant nagging forces her parents to accept her wish, then shows Tessia showing Arthur around her kingdom. Arthur observes many elves suspiciously looking at him and realizes that he's truly not welcome. According to the episode, elves and humans are still at odds because of past wars. Suddenly, he remembers Tessia looking at him suspiciously when the soldiers had apprehended him. He still cannot fathom why she would do that. Just then, in the beginning after the end episode 5, Arthur experiences the familiar pain on his chest. However, he doesn't let the elf girl know this time. After showing Arthur the kingdom, Tessia takes him to the castle. She orders the royal servants not to treat Arthur coldly, even though he's a human. Meanwhile, Arthur asks Tessia's parents if he can talk about what he and Tessia have been through until now. The Elven King, Alduin, and the Queen, Merial, nod in agreement. The beginning after the end, episode 5, then shows a conference being held at the castle, with the former king present at the scene. Arthur begins telling Tessia's family about the bandit attack and how he got separated from his family. He even informs them about the slave traders who had kidnapped Tessia. The moment Arthur says slave traders, Alduin lashes out at the human race. However, Arthur reminds him that slave trading is a profession and that it's not specific to humans only. Meanwhile, Virion asks Arthur how he freed Tessia from the slave traders. He wonders whether the boy negotiated with them or begged for mercy. However, Arthur confidently states that he defeated them as a mage. At this moment, one of the soldiers present at the scene calls out to Arthur for brazenly lying. The elf thinks the boy must have tricked the princess to infiltrate the land. Virion then steps in and orders the elf soldiers to put down their weapons. Meanwhile, Tessia tells everyone with conviction that she was indeed kidnapped by the slave traders. She even heard them talking about selling her. On the other hand, Arthur asks Alduin if he could arrange a way for him to return to Sapin, as he wishes to reunite with his family. At first, Alduin doesn't want to help Arthur, because the wounds between humans and elves are something he cannot wipe off easily. However, he decides to help Arthur since he saved his daughter's life. Yet, Alduin reveals that the teleportation gate leading to the kingdom of Sapin can only be used every 7 years after a meeting with the heads of the 3 tribes. As a result, the next gate will open in 5 years. Yet, Alduin acknowledges that they cannot keep a human for that long in their kingdom. Therefore, he will have the soldiers escort him back home. Arthur breathes a sigh of relief, knowing that he can finally meet his parents. Just then, the boy clutches his heart as he experiences the sharp pain. No one else but Virion seems to notice something about the boy. After bathing and changing his clothes, Arthur goes to the castle's balcony for fresh air. On the other side of the castle's balcony, he notices Tessia, delighted to be reunited with her parents. Suddenly, he remembers his own parents and wonders how they are doing. Arthur wonders if his parents would smile at him like Tessia parents if they meet again, then shows Tessia meeting Arthur in the castle. She apologizes for her family's rudeness. Arthur tells Tessia not to worry about it, since it only shows how worried they were about her well-being. Following that, Arthur talks to her about his concern. He knows that he has caused his parents a lot of trouble. That's why he wonders if his parents would still miss him for not being home now. Tessia squeezes Arthur's cheeks and tells him that they would obviously miss him. She mentions how she has already started missing him since he's going home. To lighten the mood, Tessia shows him a firefly bellflower. The beginning after the end, episode 5, then shows a delightful scene as several firefly bellflowers gather to illuminate the garden. Yet, the peaceful scene is suddenly disrupted by someone shooting something in Tessia's direction. Arthur intercepts the attack at the final moment and discovers Virion on the other side. According to the beginning after the end, episode 5, Virion wants to test Arthur's capabilities. Arthur realizes that there's no way out without accepting the challenge. He demonstrates his impressive powers as a mage. While Virion's overwhelming strength poses a tough challenge for him, he manages to land a hit on the elderly elf. Arthur says that he's honored to face such a powerful elf. Virion tells Arthur that he should become his disciple. Arthur can't understand whether or not he is joking. Furthermore, he tells Virion that he has yet to inform his parents that he's well. Virion then assures Arthur that there's a way for him to tell his parents that he's still alive and well in the Elenoir kingdom. Just as he says this, Arthur experiences another bout of pain in his chest. Virion realizes that his suspicions were true. Arthur has inherited beast will. The beginning after the end, episode 5, ends with Virion advising Arthur to become his disciple, or else he will die. And that wraps up episode 5 of The Beginning After the End. Arthur's entrance into the Elven Kingdom was anything but peaceful, but his strength, composure, and beast will caught the eye of none other than Virion himself. From tense standoffs to heartfelt moments with Tessia, our boy is slowly making his mark. But hold on, things are just getting started. In episode 6, Arthur begins his intense training under Virion, and let's just say, the old man does not go easy. We're talking brutal lessons in mana control, elemental refinement, and even some unexpected magical theory. Plus, Arthur starts to understand the true burden of his powers, and how far he still has to go if he wants to protect those he cares about. So buckle up, because next episode is all about growth, pain, and potential. See you there.